Hello everyone, welcome to another Q&A. I only have a handful of questions for this episode, so it won't be too long here, but let's dive in and get into these questions. So first one is from CR, who asks, Donnie, thanks so much for taking the time to do these Q&As. You are welcome. So I'm finally able to get loops going that I'm really pleased with all around, but track arrangement has me stuck. Was this phase hard for you to move through, and any suggestions? Thanks. Definitely. Early on for me, the arrangement was a massive struggle. Nowadays, it's much, much easier, and this is kind of how I approach it now. So what I'll do is I will build the core foundation of the track. So the core groove elements, maybe a couple melodic pieces, and maybe some atmospheres, and then I'll just start arranging straight away as early as possible. I just want enough pieces to start arranging, and then I'll let the arrangement tell me what the track needs. This really helps me get, to not get stuck in the loop. And so what I'll do is maybe, link some parts to my MIDI keyboard here, and I'll just mute things in and out to kind of see how I want the track to progress, kind of get an idea of how I want things to come in and out, and then I'll start arranging straight away, and then I'll just start hearing things as I'm jamming around with it. Okay, I need a melodic piece here, and I want something to answer it. A couple bars later, I'll start making effects as needed. I'll just let the arrangement tell me what the track needs. For me, that's been a game changer as far as the arrangement goes. So that's how I approach it now. Another thing that can be helpful, especially for beginners, is to use reference tracks. So maybe grab 2 or 3 tracks that you really enjoy, tracks that you really like how the song is arranged and structured, and you can use that as a guide. Just seeing where that producer has, put the breakdowns, where they're bringing in parts, where they're dropping out certain parts, how they've used effects. That can be really helpful if you are struggling. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, hopefully that helps. Next question from True Beef, who asks, thanks, Donnie. Really interesting to hear your answers to all those questions. And extra thanks for answering all of mine. You're welcome. Good to hear you're on your way to doing this full time. I get that it's really hard to do these days. It is very hard, but if it was easy, it wouldn't really be very rewarding. So I'm glad it's hard, but it's definitely a struggle. Anyways, also, it's encouraging to know you're doing this out of your own home studio, because the quality of your tracks are easily up there with the big names in the game. Thank you very much. I just have one follow-up question. Are there any sound design courses you've done that have helped influence your style in particular? That's a good question. I've done or gone through many courses and sound design tutorials, but nothing's really sticking out in particular that has helped influence my sound. I think the thing that's influenced my sound the most has just been trial and error, and just practicing on my own time. One thing can be really helpful though is reverse engineering and dissecting presets. So maybe go through whatever synth you like using to find some presets that you really like. The sound designers that are making these presets are professionals, and they're extremely talented. That's why they're making these presets. So it can be very helpful to dissect these presets, reverse engineer them, maybe even recreate them to see how they got to the end result. What oscillators are they using? What kind of filters are they using? And then how are they setting up the LFOs and envelopes? What kind of effects are they using? That type of thing can be very helpful in your own sound design endeavors. So I recommend that. I've done that plenty of times, which is I found to be very helpful. And then, at least for me, if I'm going through some sort of sound design course or tutorial or something like that, I need to be following along and actually putting it into practice. If I'm just watching it, I feel like I'm not getting everything I could out of it. I need to actually be doing it. So I like to follow along with these things, and actually do it myself. I feel like that's a much better way for me to learn personally. So I recommend that, following along with it. Doesn't even need to be the same synth that whoever's doing the tutorial is using. You can use a different synth and just follow the core ideas and concepts behind it. And then just don't underestimate just practicing on your own time. Maybe just sit down without the idea of making a track and just play around with your synthesizer. Just what can you come up with? Just get your hands dirty with it and just experiment. I think that's huge. Just spending time with it. As long as you know the core fundamentals of how sound design works, spend some time just experimenting. Okay, next question from Bjarne Anderson. Hopefully I said that right. That helped me a lot, especially the tip to create my own sound and keeping it simple. I'll definitely spend more time on creating my own sounds. Yeah, keeping it simple is key. It's really easy to overcomplicate things. So sometimes you want things a little complicated, but more often than not, keep it simple. It's probably the better idea, especially for dance music. And then I'll definitely spend more time on creating my own sounds. Exactly, we just touched on that in the last question. Next one from Crypto, who says, thank you very much. I really appreciate the answer. Also, thank you for having quality content on your channel. Well, thank you very much. There's not really a question there, but I appreciate the comment, and I try to give you, useful tidbits and something that you can actually, take with you and use in your own production. So I'm glad that you enjoy some of the content. Next question from Randy for me, who asks, what does your DJ setup look like when you play out live? So in my early DJ career, I was experimenting a lot with different setups. So I used Tractor for a while, which I did like. I used Ableton with various controllers for a while. And then I did that for a couple of years. And then I bought my first pair of Pioneer CDJs. Actually, it wasn't a Pioneer CDJ. It was like a cheap Newmark CDJ. But I kind of just fell in love with actually just using the CDJs instead of a laptop. So I eventually got my own Pioneer CDJs, and I've been using those ever since. So that was like back in like 2008 or 9 or something. So I mean, that's the club standard. So for me, I'm completely content just using the Pioneer CDJs for now. Maybe eventually I'll incorporate some sort of live setup, or maybe use Tractor again with the CDJs, but for now, the CDJs is all I need. Okay, so another question from True Beef, who asked, how do you promote your tracks and get them out there once they're ready? Do you send them out yourself to connections, or do the labels generally do that for you? If it's the labels, do they tell you who they sent the tracks to? Thanks. It's a good question. Now I do have like a few producer friends from across the globe that will kind of swap tracks like before the release, but generally it's the labels. So kind of how it works is there's various promo pools that DJs are signed up for and labels are signed up for. So as a DJ, they'll receive promos from labels, usually a couple weeks before the actual release, and they have a chance to rate the track, usually leave a little bit of like a little comment or whatever, and then the labels will send the artists like a feedback sheet, so you can see who's commented or who's listened to your track, and you can see the comment they've left. There's usually some sort of rating system. You can see how they've rated your track, and that gives these DJs a chance to, you know, play the tracks out live or in their radio show or whatever before the release date. And there's DJs across the full spectrum. I mean, there's DJs at the highest caliber, touring international DJs that are on these promo pool platforms. So Release Promo is a good example of one. Promo Push is another one that labels I've released with have used. In Flight is another big one. So there's various different ones, and I'm signed up for some as a DJ as well. So I receive promos, and so I you know, see it from both sides. So yeah, that's huge. To get support from big DJs is key. So that being said, if the labels aren't doing some sort of promo campaign for you, I wouldn't release with them personally. Why give them, you know, 50% of your royalties if they're not going to promote your track? You might as well just release it yourself. So, but all the labels that I've released with have, you know, run a promo campaign. Some labels have even run a couple of them. So yeah, that's usually the label's job. I mean, you make the music, and they need to promote your music, you know, otherwise why release with them? Of course, as an artist, you want to push your music too. You want to post it on your socials and boost awareness as much as you can, but if the labels aren't promoting your track too, then don't release with them. Last question is from Mr. Bass 093, and the question is, do you live in Florida and what area? And Mr. CR answered that one for me. Nope, I live in Utah. So thanks, CR. All right, that's all the questions for this episode. Thank you for the questions again, and let's keep this rolling. So ask me a question in the comments below this video, and I'll answer it in the next Q&A. You can also shoot me a question through my Facebook page or my Instagram page. The links for those are in the description. Thanks everyone. Take care. Cheers.